Welcome to Voice Rising with Kara Johnstad. Enjoy weekly conversations with leading luminaries, pioneering visionaries, singers, poets, musicians, and sound healers as we explore the profound role our voice plays on the path to self-realization and global enlightenment. The internationally acclaimed singer, composer, author, healer, recording artist, voice expert, creator of Voice Your Essence, and founder of the School of Voice, Kara Johnstad uses her extraordinary spiritual gifts to empower others. Everything in this world vibrates. Everything has a frequency. A pioneer in the field of voice work and transformational songwriting. Her breakthrough methods are helping thousands of people worldwide fine-tune their body-mind-spirit system and unlock the energetic frequencies of limitless creativity, health, and abundance. Share your voice, ask your questions, join in the conversation. Receive life-changing, positive transformation and rise together to create a sound world. And here's your host, Kara Johnstad.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Voice Rising. With me in studio today is Lady Nenari, Princess of the Sea. And Lady Nenari is an internationally celebrated complementary therapist, Akashic Records, soul medium, singer, songwriter, author, speaker, and spiritual mentor. She's passionate about vibrational wellness and living a high-frequency lifestyle. So welcome, Lady Nenari, to the show. I'm so delighted to have you with me today.
Oh, it's such a humble honor and pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. So for over 30 plus years, you've been assisting souls, individuals, and many couples to transform their lives and create a meaningful and well, you could even say a lasting miracles to enter their lives. And the vehicle that drives this passion is your instrument that you use, channeling the spiritual wisdom through a master artist that you call, let me see if I have this right, from the master artist that we call Spirit or Divine Source, correct?
Aye, absolutely.
Yeah, aye.
And if he, pardon the Scottish accent.
I love it.
Well, thank you. It really begins with vibrational frequency. Whatever we call source, God, spirit. I mean, there's a zillion names for this same source energy. And when we tap into this vibrational frequency, it translates into something that's known as our soul song. And in ancient times, we began with our soul song to actually remind us of who we are. And so when you shift into that, and I help people to shift into their soul, and when that happens, it just blossoms you. It has you be in your soul purpose, and it makes you thrive in your life rather than being in things like stress or worry or anxiety, depression, fears, and things like that. So yeah, that's what I do.
Wow.
And
fabulous.
It's gifts,
what a great
gifts
line
that I
of
came
work.
with. It is. It's gifts that I came here with.
Amazing. So what is one of your most powerful memories you have as a child using that powerful voice channel that you've been given?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Let's see. I would say the first one is being on the. I would say being on the playground at school. I really I was singing light language. And in the beginning, I had no clue what I was doing at all. I'd be sat in the church. I was raised Catholic, and I'd be sat in the church completely zoning out with the priest, whatever he was saying. And I was seeing loved ones crossed over. I was seeing auras. I was making motions with my hands. I was singing inside my heart and my soul and speaking this light language. And of course, my family didn't know what to do with me. So it was always kind of like you're seen, not heard kind of thing. So it was like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that kind of thing. But that was my fondest memories is doing that because it's gifts that I was born with. I mean, I know I was doing it before that, even as a child, even more wee than that. But as a wee lass, I really, that's my most fondest memory is doing that in church and then also on the playground at school.
Oh, beautiful. So how would you define that language of light? Is it more seed sounds, or is it more,
It,
are there words that come through you or to you?
Well, it's interesting because it's seed sounds, but it's also because it's vibrational frequency energy, you're translating it into what we would call as earthly language. But basically, if you were to look at light language as a whole, it starts as vibrational frequency energy, and then the seed sounds that come from it are actually what we attempt to, with the instrument of our voice, to equate to those vibrational frequencies, right? We put that to sound. So obviously, like the radio show we are on at the moment, the Om, or the Om, is our first sound. And then from that, all of the other seed sounds, but then also the languages come from that. So the language of light is basically interpreting that vibrational frequency sound. And so then you have languages like Aramaic and Celtic languages, Sanskrit language, Gallic language, which I'm well versed in. All of those those are our main root languages that come from that. And actually English is one of our most watered down versions.
Oh, fabulous. You know, Lady Nenari, my computer actually cut out for a second, so I'm just going to trust that you gave an incredibly insightful answer on what
thank
is
you. I hope so too.
language. Yeah.
I hope you received that.
I was in a black hole for a second, really, honestly, but I'm happy I got it figured out. So everything on the planet is vibration, right? So including animals, plants, water that we're made of, the atomic structures of everything, our tissues, our cells, our emotions, our thought patterns, they all have a frequency and are electromagnetic fields. And that goes also as well to disease and dis-ease. So sound impacts the many realms of our world directly. And which ways do you work with sound directly to heal and perhaps, for you yourself to stay in flow?
Well, I would say a couple of things. One is actually electromagnetic, and it's reversed. It's actually magnetic electro, because we are actually magnetic beings first. The vibrational frequency that comes through is a magnetic pull, and then it becomes electric. Okay, right. So the ways that I work with brainwave patterns, and this goes into meditational hypnosis that I work with and whatnot, in terms of the sound. But the biggest one that I love to do, and my most cherished one, is the soul song. So our soul song is basically our vibrational frequency that we attune to as a soul. So just very similar to the radio show that we're on right now. Correct. It's a vibrational frequency that we tune into, like the radio dial.
Right.
So when you tune into the vibration, I'm sorry?
Yeah. No, I was going to ask you, how do you lead people into that place so they can listen into their soul sound? I mean, I guess soul song, that's the first thing. But the second thing is, as you know, many people they feel very blocked with their voice. They feel like their heart might be wide open, and they have, really insightful thoughts. They've been meditating maybe for, 100 years on top of a mountain, and yet they feel that when it comes to singing or connecting with their own song, that they are blocked. So how are you able to not only have them listen into their soul song, but also perhaps sing it to really embody that frequency?
Well, there's two essences. One is actually by accessing the Akasha, or the Akashic records, which is the vibrational frequency records of all that is. Okay, we access those, and we come through with that soul song, and I actually sing it to you. I do this usually in a recorded session, and I do it in a way with vibrational intonations and patterns that goes into something that's called brain synchronizing. Okay, so what it does is it synchronizes your brain with your soul's essence, or your RNA. So when you hear this, it actually transforms you back into your soul. And I'll give you an example of this. One of my most cherished memories is of a doctor who was in Malta, who actually, she came to me asking for her soul song in a soul song session, and she asked me to give her daughters as well. And her daughter had cerebral palsy, and she was quite young. I think she was maybe maybe 6 or 7 or something at the time. And she says, look, I don't even know if she's going to be able to hear this because she can't hear sounds at all. She won't even listen to them. She puts her hands over her ears. She's completely stressed. She says, but, can you record it for me? So I did do. And she sent me this letter back, and it's a testimonial on my website, actually, because it touched me so profoundly. Not only did she listen to it, her daughter, but she actually took the recording that I did and took it, just her bit of her soul song, and she listened to it over and over and over again, and it transformed her. Now, this is coming from someone who couldn't even stand sound. Okay, right. That's how powerful sound is in that respect. And then the other level of that is taking someone into the deeper brainwave patterns, usually. Now, it can also be the higher brainwave pattern frequencies, but this goes into some technical stuff having to do with the 8 main brainwave patterns in my meditational hypnosis course, because we only know about 4. Right? And so we know about beta, alpha, theta, and delta. Okay, now it's said as children, we basically come in as alpha. And I find this really interesting because my studies on this have been, and my course has actually been in the hands of Stanford University School of Medicine.
I saw
because
that.
of this.
Yeah.
And so people like actually Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden and whatnot are actually coming out with this information. But I've been talking about this information for 25 years now, and it's been in my course for 15 of that. So they're just now coming out with it, and I'm like smiling because I'm going, you know what, this is fantastic, because that means this is the proof that Stanford has actually taken my course and brought it out to the masses through somebody like Bruce Lipton, which is absolutely, Dr. Bruce Lipton is amazing, right? So what I do with people is most of the time they're in that place, like you said, of the stress and the anxiety, and they're not hearing their soul song, and maybe they've meditated for many years. But what's happened is that they're in a different brainwave pattern than is actually they're unable to be able to shift it, okay, unless they go deeper. So let me give you an example. So from the age of 7, basically down, okay, and this changes depending upon the age. It's usually between 6 and 9, but 7 is kind of your midpoint of that. We're programmable, okay. It is being said that we come in theta brainwave frequency. And now I would argue that because myself, I came in delta and epsilon frequency. Okay, so there's 8 main brainwaves. You've got beta, alpha, theta, delta, epsilon, lambda, gamma, and hypergamma. Now, some of this is already coming out, but very few people know about this. Okay, it's just now in the last maybe 5 years that this has come out more. So here you are, let's say you are in theta, okay? And you're very programmable, and you see the world as a wee lad or lass. You're just really absorbing everything in, because that's what happens. You're downloading, let's say, Windows 10. Okay, so here comes Windows 10. You're downloading it, right? And you're seeing mom and dad, and you're seeing all of these different programs, and you develop these programs, let's say maybe if I'm not good enough. Okay, that was my big one that I healed from. I'm not good enough, right? So after about the age of between 6 and 9, and like I said, 7's the midpoint, you stop being as programmable, so to speak, and you shift more into alpha and beta waves. So even if you're meditating, you may go down into delta and epsilon brainwave for a wee bit, but you come right back up to beta and alpha most of the time. Okay, so you're meant to go back down into the deeper brainwave frequencies to be able to reprogram, to reinstall. Let's say you're going to put in an upgrade, Windows 11. Okay, right. Even though it's not out yet, right? Okay, so this is why people struggle. So what I do is I help them to get either deeper into the programming layers, or I get them into a heightened state, which is where gamma and hypergamma waves and a little bit of lambda brainwave frequency to actually reinstall the program. Okay, because what happens is, and you may have seen different modalities that are out there like Psy-K and resonance repatterning and things of that nature. Well, what happens in those are really good. Theta healing is also a big one here in this country. And what happens is that you're being met at that theta brainwave frequency. If that's your baseline frequency that you came in here with to this earth, then great. You're programmable and we can reinstall or install the update of Windows 11. If you're dealing with fears, anxieties, addictions, traumas, depressions, anger, those sorts of things, you're not programmable at theta brainwave frequency because you have to go deeper to delta and epsilon. And this is what these programs are missing out on. So what I do in my meditational hypnosis program and through helping people to hear their soul song is I bring them into that deeper resonance through something called brain patterning, synchronization, and voice patterning, which you probably understand this as a singer, yeah?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Exactly.
I.
You know, we're going to take a very small station break. We're going to hold on to that thought, and when we come back, we're going to be talking exactly about that, voice patterning, repatterning, and reprogramming our systems through high-frequency medicine and vibrational intent.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at OMTimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Conflict comes in many forms and often triggers a fight-or-flight response. Some of us gravitate toward conflict, while many will stop at little to nothing to avoid it. Unfortunately, what we resist will persist, which often forces us to face our fear and deal with it head-on. Join me during my show, Conflict Rising, as I discuss the important role of conflict with leaders who have moved through it successfully. Tune in Thursdays at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, it's always darkest before the dawn.
With happy clients all over the world, Kara Johnstad knows that your voice is the missing link to more authenticity, abundance, creativity, and health. An internationally acclaimed voice expert, Kara's breakthrough methods have helped thousands of people successfully heal their voice wounds and extinguish the story of self-doubt and shyness forever. Join in group trainings, attend online sessions, schedule one-on-one time, and invite Kara to work with your organization and community. Get started today. Go to www.karajohnstad.com. and receive a special guided meditation designed to fine-tune your inner voice and welcome you on the voice journey.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling on it.
The dad joke. Corny, groan-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
What did the buffalo say when he dropped his son off at school? Bye, son.
So take a moment to make your kid laugh, because dad jokes rule. Make your kid laugh today. Go to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
We are back. I am Kara Johnstad. You are at Voice Rising, and with me in studio today is Lady Nenari. And we just left off with a very fascinating, it's not even a concept, I would say. It's a practice, it's a reality, it's an experience. Lady Nenari, you were sharing with us how we can easily reprogram if we connect with our soul song. And what I understood, and let me know if I understood this correctly, in the first in essence 7 years, sometimes between 6 and 9 is a window, we have very clear imprints that we receive from our environment, and we cannot reprogram easily unless we come back to that initial brain wave frequency that state that we had when we were at that young age. Is that correct? So theta,
exactly.
delta.
You got it.
Yeah. And so
Right.
what's happening with some of the healing methods that they're working well, for example, with theta healing for the people that were in a theta state, brain state when they were small, but if somebody entered in a different brain state onto the earth, delta or alpha, then it's not going to work as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you also have added in with it trauma. So just a brief example from my own life. When I was 6, I went through a traumatic experience with my father. And based upon the voice imprint, the intonation that was given to me at that time, anytime somebody spoke to me that way, it would automatically trigger that same response within me. So this is where we get our fight, flight, reptilian brain from, right? Where we have these moments where we're triggered emotionally by something. It's not even necessarily the event itself. It's the intonation, the voice pattern that's there at the moment. So just a really brief example for your listeners that people would understand. And I invite everybody to go listen to this. If you go listen to like radio shows like we're doing here or a YouTube video or whatnot, if someone's speaking to you about some information and all of a sudden they kind of go like this, right?
Yeah.
That you see that voice pattern it's a questioning. So in other words, what they're really conveying to you through their voice pattern is they're sure. In other words, they're not sure exactly about what it is they're saying. They're trying to convince you, right?
Yeah.
So that's just a really brief example. So going back to trauma, so let's say in this example, with my situation, my dad was a very stern man. Right? And you get this, you probably have gotten this, your listeners have probably gotten this as a wee lad or a wee lass. So it's like, you should do what you're told. You're to be, seen, that, heard, and, go to your room and that kind of thing, right? So if anybody speaks to you in that intonation, boom, you're automatically going to be triggered. So what voice resonance patterning or repatterning does is you actually are bringing in the opposite energy. Okay, so if you notice right now, I went from that right to this really calm, centered, feeling good state. Okay,
correct.
Now the opposite is, so the opposite is also true. Let's say you had a parent or something that triggered you where somebody's just, really just mad, just really that, I'm so excited and not excited in a good way, but like stressed excited. And that's what you lived with. Yeah? The only way you're going to be triggered back into that hypnotic state to be able to go deeper, to heal, is to have that calmness and centeredness, right? Because that's your trigger. Okay, so this is how we're able to heal, is through the voice inflection. So it's really interesting through singing and through speaking how we can see and hear and feel and sense. And we automatically, intuitively do this all the time. But most of us are not aware. We're not consciously aware.
Are you saying then when you're working with a client, let's say the mother had a very calm voice and she was passive aggressive, for example, that you would actually do a quicker voice to go deeper into these deep states to reprogram? I mean, because it's normal to have a very slow, calm voice, but you would actually use the opposite because the calm voice for them is the trigger. And
exactly.
Okay, I got it. Well, that's really fascinating. It is really fascinating. I'm actually, it's very difficult for me to listen to any kind of guided meditations where the voice for me is not calm or full, where I feel there's a tension inside the voice. I don't manage to listen for more than 10 seconds, and who knows, maybe I had that as a child, I don't know, but I know that the voice quality is so important, right? So share us, you're doing the meditational hypnosis, the research, you've been doing this your whole life, the whole brain wave research and frequency. And I wanted to ask you a little bit more deeply about DNA and RNA. If you could explain that to our audience. You're a forerunner in both the brainwave and RNA research, correct? And
Correct.
how can we better understand, as far as I understand, I'm not a scientist here, but that the RNA is also giving messages, right? So there is also voice within our cells. There's voice everywhere, not only frequency, but really voices, messages that are being transferred to different parts of our body, and then from there also, for sure, between our relationships, our community, universal language, etc. So how does that work?
Okay, so I won't get too technical because that would blow everybody out of the water. I do have an extensive video. I do have I do have an extensive video on this, explaining it. But I'll give the nutshell version, if you will, the synopsis version. So our DNA, everybody knows what DNA is. Okay, you've heard that, tossed about, and we're transmuting and transforming our DNA, but very few people understand what RNA is. So RNA is actually our soul blueprint. Okay? So when we come here to any given experience, and what I will also say is when I do the work with the meditational hypnosis or any of this work that I'm speaking about of the RNA, we're also working with multi-dimensions, and we're also working with multi-dimensional lives as well. Because if you believe, and most people who are listening to this show believe in the fact of reincarnation, so we have other lives that are neither past nor future. They're all being lived right now in a vibrational frequency, right, spectrum. So we're just tuning into the bandwidth or tuning into the radio station, right? So where RNA comes in is the RNA is the encapsulation of our entire soul's blueprint. And you're correct in what you said. It does send us messages. And what the messages that it's sending is our soul messages, our soul blueprint, our soul path and progression for this life, and what we're here to do in our soul purpose. And what often happens is because of going back to what we were talking about earlier in the show, and those traumas that happen to us, we get reprogrammed out of it and we listen to the mutated DNA instead of RNA, which is our soul's blueprint. So when I'm working with somebody, and this is where the research comes in, I've taken what I've received from source, from the Akasha, the Akashic records, and from source energy, and amalgamated it with research that is now coming out more and more in peer-reviewed studies and things of that nature from the scientific perspective. And it's now showing that our first primary essence is actually not the DNA. The DNA is actually what comes after. If we want to be able to heal, we need to go right straight to the source, literally, which is our soul's blueprint, our RNA.
Which is the RNA, right? So what you're saying is so many people are working with, repatterning, new mindsets, thought systems, healing emotional fields. But what you're saying is also through voice work and vibrational frequency, we can heal and recode the RNA and also the DNA. Well, maybe not. The
it's not. It's not
the
really
RNA,
recoding,
if that's the soul.
Actually, yeah. It's going back to our RNA, going back to our soul's blueprint.
Right, which is phenomenal. So it's really when people are saying you have a true calling, you have to tune into your true calling. I always say to people, they say, do I follow my heart or follow my mind? I'm always saying follow your voice, because your voice is in the middle. Your voice is integrating. Your voice is that soul frequency. But when we say we have a true calling, and when you find it, you come home, you feel good, we truly do have a soul calling, which is there in our RNA and there for us as soon as we tap in and tune in to who we're truly meant to be.
Absolutely. I fully agree with you. And really what it comes down to is uninstalling all the other programs, for lack of a better word, right?
Yeah,
that told us, Yeah, that told us we're not good enough, and in some cases, it may be even programs that weren't necessarily told to us. It was things that we created in our thought process. And what I mean by that is, go back to what my life experience was when I had the traumatic event at 6, with my dad. I had to come back into understanding in a deeper level at that time what my dad actually was doing was his own form of meditation. He would sit in front of the telly, he would zone out and look at the post, and he'd have his tea. Now, in the mind of a 6-year-old, though, as a wee lass, I was seeing it as Dad abandoned me, I'm not good enough. All of that was what got programmed in. That's not actually what he did, though. Right? So sometimes it's our perceptions. So it's about changing our perception and seeing it from a different viewpoint. And that's from the soul's blueprint. So I came from that soul blueprint of that deep understanding of like, right, okay, my dad didn't really intentionally go to harm me and say, oh, you're not good enough. And it's not that I was nay good enough. In the eyes of Source, which is our soul's blueprint, I am good enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's about coming back to that, and that's where the RNA comes in.
Right. So another question for you. The ears can detect 10 octaves of sound, whereas our eyes can only detect 1 octave of sound, right? And it's so fascinating that we are putting so much emphasis often on light energy, enlightenment. We don't say ensoundment, right? We say enlightenment. Everyone is pushing for the light, right? And yet sound can also be transformed into geometric figures and architecture, etc. I guess I wanted to ask you, anywhere where there's a regular vibration, the sound-light connection is always happening. And what is your understanding of how sound is linked to light and how light is linked to sound? Do we need both? I mean, what I always say is sound penetrates through walls and through our body, whereas light often stops, right? If I'm sitting in a living room singing, it'll go through that wall. But if I'm sitting in a living room and I turn off the light, my neighbor won't notice if I've gone to bed or not, correct? So I find that sound is the most powerful healing force that we have. And what's your take on that?
I'm going to take it a little bit further, actually.
Take
so
it
you
further.
said, so you say the human ear can hear up to 10 octaves, correct? Okay.
Well,
so
that's what the
let's
studies say.
Yeah, that's what the studies say. Okay, so what you were just referencing about the light and the sound in terms of the example of turning on the light or turning off the light and your neighbor wouldn't necessarily see that. Yeah. This is where multidimensional consciousness comes in. Okay, so physically, that person may not see the light. Okay, but spiritually, soulfully, if they're attuned in, they could see it beyond the wall. Light that's the human earthliness, right? The 10 octaves that we are able to hear with our human ears, take that and multiply that times infinity. And this is how I'm going to explain this to you. It is something I teach in my chakra course. Okay, so we're taught that we have 7 main chakras. Technically, there's 8. Okay, if you continue on to the Ati chakra, which is all that is, connecting you to Source. Okay, but think about it. For those who understand, we have other lives, i.e. reincarnation. For every single life that you have all chakras for that life. You have all chakras for every dimension that you've ever been in, multidimensionally. Okay, this is just going to blow your mind because the mind cannot conceive of this. So think about it. Feel into this with the vibration of this and understand the 10 octaves are actually 10 octaves in this life, 10 octaves in another life, 10 octaves in another life, multidimensionally. And you've been on this earth 1,602 lives, by the way, Cara. So
great. Good to know.
So you have what is that? So you have 1,602 lives on this earth with 10 octaves of ears. So what is that? 10 times 1,602. That's 16,000 right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Octaves.
Just right there. That's Yeah, that's 16,000 octaves. Now, if you take it out multidimensionally to all the other dimensions that you've had, okay, that in lives that you've been in, and parallel dimensions and parallel universes, the number is ad infinitum, right? So there's actually way more frequencies that we can hear or see from the light perspective, and it's actually both and. Since you asked the question, do we need both? It's both and because they're one. Sound is light, light is sound.
Yeah,
it's an infinite circle.
Hold that thought, Lady Nenari. Hold that thought. Sound is light, light is sound, and we are of sound mind and sound body. We're going to take a short station break right now and be back with more enlightening thoughts by Lady Nenari.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
I'm Kathy Williams, host of Sexy Mom Abundant Life radio show on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. On the show, we explore living abundantly in every area of your life. Ways to let go of limiting patterns and beliefs and to step into the flow of creativity and possibility, knowing you are supported by the universe.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Cara Johnstad. You are at Voice Rising, and in studio with me today is Lady Nenari, and we are really flying today. We're just really going deeper and deeper into light and sound and that connection of vibrational wellness and healing. So, Lady Nenari, you were talking about not only that I've been on Earth for 1,602 times, which I think is a fabulous number because, 1 plus 6. Let me see, my birthday's coming up. This makes a mighty 9 right there. Right?
Hi.
Yeah, but you were talking about just really expanding into this reality that it's not just this one embodiment, so to say, but many different parallel lives and experiencing at the same time. Did I understand that correctly?
Absolutely. And I'll give you the best film reference ever for this, The Matrix, which I'm actually tied into indirectly. I'm actually was put in Wikipedia because of it. So if you remember in the first Matrix film, when they're going up the stairs and they keep going up the stairs and they keep seeing the same black cat. Mm-hmm, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you remember what Morpheus says to Neo? He says there's a glitch in the Matrix. Okay, so what he was referring to is those glitches or those multidimensional frequencies that we're talking about here. So when we go into healing with sound, you may be, going back to your example earlier, you may be sitting in a room and that sound may travel beyond that room into another room, or that light may shut off if you shut it off, but it's really not off. It's actually going through all those multidimensional frequencies. And what that means for healing is that when you're working with mutated DNA patterns, in other words, programs that we've had of I'm not good enough, things of that nature that we talked about, we're actually working on a multidimensional level. When people have sessions with me, that's the work that I do. So it's not just this embodiment, again, right? It's the inclusion of everything, the totality of your soul and its blueprint.
So we can know that our voice and all our stories and all our patterns and all our trauma and all our bliss and all our ecstasy and all our joy is held and recorded in time and space. We don't have to be afraid that anything is disappearing. Now, this comes to my belief that actually the universe is expanding because of voice energy. I'm always saying this and nobody believes me, but I actually believe exactly because of this, the voice never, ever leaves us, ever. And what is your take on it? When we come into the world, we come with this really strong voice. All of us, every single one of us has a very open, strong voice channel. Before we can walk, before we can write, before we can read, before we can crawl, before we can even sit up and hold our head up, we have a really, really strong open voice channel, and a channel that is full of vibrant and vibrant energy, right? It's vibration. Is it the same voice that is accompanying us throughout all these many lives and parallel lives? Is it the same soul frequency if you're talking about soul song?
Exactly. I was just going to say that's exactly what it is. It is our vibrational frequency blueprint. It is our soul song. Now, my name is my soul song. Okay, it's Nenari. Yeah, which it means the sacred keeper of the flame of love and light. So if you look at every life I've had here on this earth and then across the multi-dimensions, that soul frequency has been with me, regardless of my earthly name in this incarnation, regardless of my earthly name in any incarnation, or across any dimension, multi-dimension. That soul essence is always there, and you're very spot on. We come in with that. Now, depending upon our soul agreement, we also come in with other things from other lives that we are here to sort. So like the fact that you've been here 1,602 lives is actually perfect, because you're like myself, you're a last lifer, which means this is your last incarnation on Earth. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you. You're actually not the first one who's told me that. I'm always a little bit baffled that they have seen that before, and I'm like,
this is accessing your Akashic records, your soul's blueprint. And being that we're on this call, you've given me soul and body permission to do so, right? So I've been jokingly called the walking and talking Akasha. Because this is what I've been doing since I was wee, yeah? So I access people's souls this way, and I teach courses on how to do this and such as well. But the thing of it is that you've been here 1,602 lives, so that goes to 9, okay? 9 is the number of completion. Okay, and so soul completion is actually one of the things that we're here in our last incarnation to do. So anything that we haven't completed as a soul, we're going to complete. Yeah. So that's
why I'm working so hard.
That's right. Exactly. Well, that, and you're a light worker, but or as I call it, a soul worker. You work with the soul. But it's because you have this, you're a star seed. So you have this purpose that you can, as we say in Scots language, you can, or that you're coming back here. Right. So it's kind of like, I got to get this done. You're just, boom, really on focus, on point. Same here. So us last lifers, we tend to stick together. And there's loads of us here actually on this planet right now who are in our last incarnation who, some of us are free from being aware of it. That soul's blueprint, that vibrational frequency travels with us multidimensionally. And depending upon our soul agreement, when we come into any given incarnation, we also bring with us other mutated DNA patterns that we're here to stop. And I'll give you an example from my own life. Physical abuse. My family is very physically abusive. It stopped with me. I didn't lay a hand on my children. That was a mutated DNA pattern that I sorted here. And I came here specifically with that imprint in my soul's blueprint to sort.
Mm-hmm. Very good. That's excellent. I think that's a lot of people also, they don't realize this when they go into healing their own trauma. They take it even, I don't want to say not to take it personally, but I know that sometimes when we just see it as trauma, as an energetic, mutation that we can heal, and it might be from our experiences, it might be something that we brought in, it might be from our ancestors, it might be from wherever God knows it comes from. The truth is, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that we heal, right? I think that's for me the thing, is that we need to realize that we're healers and we have the tools to heal. There are many amazing things happening on our planet today that give us those tools, and if we stop thinking it's our fault or, oh my gosh, why did that happen to me? And we just say, hey, wow, what an opportunity I have to look into this blocked energy that I'm holding, or tension, or deep sadness, or frustration, grief, anger, if you're talking about, abusive families. And how can I heal that so that that is not passed on to another voice, right? So that the next time that voice comes into the world, they can come with a very, very vibrant, open channel and don't have to carry at least that weight, right? Yeah.
And
so how
I think,
can we?
Well, I think part of, as I say, I think part of the problem is that people don't understand what healing means. And so they go, right, okay, so I have this anger, but how do I heal it? And the easiest way, and I mean, we could spend another show on this, but the easiest way through sound and light is to understand what its opposite is. So just a brief example, since you said anger, what's the opposite of anger?
Well, I would
love.
think joy, or love, yeah.
Peace, contentment, right? Any of those, right? The frequency that you choose that's more closest to what's aligned with your soul, and that's bringing that within you and giving that to yourself multidimensionally, and then it'll come out into your outer experience. But most people don't understand what healing means. They just say, right, okay, so what does that mean? Everybody says, oh, just heal it. What does that mean? So that's just a brief introduction into that.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I see that also if you think about music. I mean, this is a very, very basic example, but if you have a timpani drum and a tuba, a very heavy, lower, slower energy, and then you have piccolos and whatever, and the amazing thing is one thinks that wouldn't fit together, but when one brings it together, it is actually what makes that divine music work, right? So what you're saying basically is exactly that. So and musicians know this, authors know this, artists know this, how can I balance? How can I find balance? So if I have a lot of anger, okay, I got to bring in the joy. If I have a lot of, heaviness, I have to bring in the lightness. If I have a lot of pushing to the outer world, maybe I have to go more inner. And I think that's a very simple way and a very profound way to look at healing and wellness and wholeness. So how can we? We're coming. You're right. We could do many shows. We are coming slowly to the
Absolutely.
end, which is right.
We just started the surface here.
Oh my goodness! So our times are so challenging. How can we help you with your work that you're doing for humanity to plant more seeds, to reach more people? Where can we find your courses and your teachings and be part of this big movement, this paradigm shift that is happening on planet Earth in the moment, that we are raising the vibrational frequency of this planet? So how can we be supportive of that?
Well, actually, my main website is diamondlady.net, and that has all of my courses, all of my social media, everything else. And as of late last evening, I'm also a part of the OMTimes magazine community as well. I just launched, Thank you. I just launched several of my articles and more to come on that. And in this realm of sound and light and frequency, one of the articles that I put up there is having to do with ASMR. If anybody understands what that is, it's actually the way in which what we've been talking about, to be fair. And it's called autonomous sensory meridian response. So it ties in with the sound and the light. And so I did an article on that, which goes quite in depth. And so that's now on OMTimes magazine community, which is also on my website. I have a link to that, and
Fabulous.
through any social media. So yeah, just thank you so much for allowing me to be here and to be able to touch so many lives. I'm so humbly chuffed to be able to be here with
beautiful.
you.
Do you yourself have a regular voice practice that you do that keeps you tuned and your channel absolutely open, or are you such a natural that you can just drink a tea?
I will tell you, I'm just like Deva Premal because she doesn't practice either, and Matan is always on her about that, and I don't need to. I don't need to. I mean, I'm just like Deva. I don't need to. I'm so natural. She's so in her natural, in her soul song. She doesn't need to either, and it's natural within me.
Well, that is just fabulous. Here is to staying natural and staying aligned and staying in flow. It was a very delightful call, Lady Nenari. It was really lovely. And for everybody out there, yeah, check out her homepage and read her articles. A big shout out also to OMTimes magazine. They're doing an excellent work here. Supporting
yes, thank you, OMTimes,
and our community, exactly, to heal. Okay, so I will see you soon out there. In this last life, we are going to be rocking it big time. And
I was just going to say, let's rock it.
Yeah, until next time, stay gold. Yeah, all right, bye-bye.
Thank you, beautiful goddess. Bye-bye.